Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you. When I first heard about AI math tutoring for my kids, my immediate reaction was absolutely not. I am naturally skeptical, like very skeptical. And the idea of my kids talking to an AI program to learn math just sounded like a terrible idea. But then something unexpected happened. My kids started using it, and not only did they like it, they started thinking differently. They were asking better questions. They weren't getting emotional when they couldn't figure something out right away. And they were actually trying to solve problems instead of just looking for answers. So today, I'm talking with Shiv, the founder of Astral Tutor, about AI in education, what's working, what's not, and how we can use it to actually build our kids' thinking instead of replacing it. And if you've been on the fence about AI like I have, this conversation is going to be really interesting. Okay. Well, welcome back. And today I have Shiv from Astral Tutor who is going to talk to us about AI in education and using it to help our kids' education get accelerated. And I have enjoyed using Astral Tutor, the AI math program with my kids. So we're going to talk about that today too. And Shiv, welcome. Thank you so much. It's been really fun getting to know you.
Hey, Sarah, thanks for having me on. It's a real pleasure to be here. And thanks for using Astral Tutor and all your amazing feedback and thoughts. It's been so fun getting to know you and just having you use the product.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about it because when I first learned about it, people who don't know me in real life, I'm extremely cynical.
Yeah.
There's like 14 lawyers in my family. So you offer me something like AI math, and I'm immediately like, no, that couldn't be good. And it has
Right.
been such a surprise and so fun to watch my kids thrive using it. So I love it when I'm kind of proved wrong, even though I don't really let people know that that's
You're
what
never
I'm.
wrong.
I'm very cautious, but I love it when I find something that's like a gem.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Amazing.
homeschool parents aren't really sure yet exactly where they land on AI, right? Like people are kind of like, do I do it? We want to love it because it makes our life easier and maybe could be amazing, but also some of us have some hesitation. So tell me about your thoughts on AI and education and what you're seeing that's good about it.
Absolutely. I think AI is just like any other tool in our tool case. We have to be very careful how we use it, and we have to use it with the right intentions. Our intentions are everything, right? Because, they will shape whether it's AI has been used to, build our thinking or if it's being used to replace our thinking, which is obviously going to be detrimental. And I think we see this with every tool, like even Google and search and everything else, and not going to the library anymore and just searching it up. There's a period where even coders and programmers would just search the answers instead of, thinking through it and looking through the docs and finding the right answers and building their thinking and their research skills rather than just finding an easy, cheap solution. So I think AI is kind of very similar to that in that, we have to be very careful how we use it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's kind of an interesting thought. I don't really think about using AI, but also using it to build our thinking. And we're going to talk about Astral, but how do you think how do you use it? Like just in your daily life,
Yeah.
how do you use it to build your thinking and not replace your thinking?
Absolutely. So I would never just ask it for an answer to a question. I would always ask it, give me all the criteria, give me all the factors that would go into this decision. How would you slice this decision up rather than, hey, I need to decide this, make this decision for me. And this way I can actually see all of the factors, how things are split up and before coming to a decision. And this works well for like interpersonal relationships that I'm trying to figure out and I have questions about. This works well for coding, architectural decisions, decisions in the product, all sorts of decisions that I try to make. We get AI to do a gut check and a sanity check. I was like, am I thinking about this in the right ways? Are there different ways that I haven't uncovered yet? So that's how I use it.
Okay, so you ask it to help you kind of like give you your thinking points, like what are all the things I should be thinking about, not
Mhm.
like what is the right answer to my question, right?
Exactly. What is the actual model and framework that I should be using
Yes,
to dissect this problem,
yes,
not just come right to a solution? So
yes,
that's how I use it.
yes. Okay, I love that. And I have seen a little bit of that with my son using the math program, which I'll talk about, but
Mhm.
he is now asking himself those questions, like what do I know already that can help me solve this problem? He says it out loud, which is kind of funny. I've never had a kid do that. He's like actually
It's
talking to
amazing.
himself, like what do I know already that I can use to solve this problem? And I like that because
Mhm.
he didn't have that skill before. So
It's amazing.
where do you think AI tools are currently working or failing kids in education?
Right. I think the failure section is quite large. So I'll go over that first. I think the ways that it's failing kids is like all these homework solvers. It really pains me to see all these homework solvers online and kids, what are they doing? They're screenshotting their work. They're sending it right to ChatGPT. They're sending it right to homeworksolver.com. And what does that do? It replaces their thinking because they're just getting the answers. And now they're just rote filling out on their sheets what the answers are without thinking through the problems. Like the homework is losing its meaning because of this, right? And any sort of work that they're doing on their own. Another thing that hurts me is, well, it hurts my soul, is like just seeing them come up with whole essays and responses to things just like from AI, thinking about any of the content anymore. Again, when your thinking process is going to zero and you're just going input, output with the AI, this is not good for education, right? So it's dangerous. And I think that's like some of the large ways that AI is failing, kids in that sense and how it's being used. And then areas where it's really, I think, supporting kids is like when kids are using it to discover new things and ask right questions. And that comes to how you're prompting the AI and what like, situations in the real world that you're using it for. I've seen like parents that are with their kids on nature walks and they'll take pictures of random flowers now to find out where is this from? What kind of flowers? And why is it named this way? And they're discovering more about the world around them using AI. That's like a really positive way to use AI. They're actually using AI to think through like this historical thing that we want to analyze. What are all the different ways that we can look at this historical event? What are all the viewpoints about it? And when you're using it for discovery, that's when I think it's really powerful because it's got all the world's information kind of stored up inside of it and all these different viewpoints and everything. So we have to prompt it the right way. And we have to ask the right questions for it to elicit that correct response that helps us. That's a real skill set to have in itself.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's a huge skill set. It's like you have to, in order to do that, you have to be actively engaged in your own education, which homeschool
Hmm.
parents are engaged in their children's education, but students, I mean, it's like the $1 million question, how to motivate a student, right? Like
Hmm.
whether they're
Yeah.
homeschooled, public school, private school, doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
We're always like the first goal is to motivate them. Because once you can get them motivated, like, but
Hmm.
teaching them how to do that and like pursue education rather than just
Yeah.
like fill in the blank is
Of course.
but
That's
that's
a
always been
struggle.
a problem, right? Like cheating in school existed long before AI, right? Like taking the shortcut, the short way through, not learning the information, that's always been a problem.
Yeah. I remember even when I was younger, like, oh, yeah, there'd be times where I'm not curious about something anymore versus I am curious. When I was curious, I would dig infinitely.
Yes,
It's like
me
you
too.
can't stop me. I'm going to go through the library. I'm going to go through all the books because I'm curious about it. When I'm not curious, though, when I was as a child, I remember I would just go to the answer key, at the back of the textbook. And I'd be like, oh, let me just copy these over
Yes,
in, because like
yes,
it's kind of the same thing, just exacerbated, right?
yes.
So AI can aid our curiosity. And hopefully that's what really we want to build in our platform. And I think hopefully that our mission would be to aid in curiosity.
Yes.
Let's
Okay, I have a
evolve
total
that.
tangent question for you, but this
Yeah,
just brought it
please.
up for me, and I'm just curious what you think because of my own experience. Do you think that grades in school tend to promote or in homeschooling, do you think that grades tend to promote that deep, curious thinking, or do they promote more of the, quick learning, thinking about your own experience or whatever?
Hmm.
I mean, I got good grades in school, but I was very good at studying and regurgitating the information. To me, that was my process. I'm good at doing that,
Hmm.
but what do you
Hmm.
think?
I think it's really how the grades are framed to the child, because that framework will guide whether they want to just maximize the grades for the purpose of like pleasing their parents or the purpose of like showing off to the rest of the kids in school or whatever it might be, versus whether the grades are like a true reflection of like, you know what, I'm maybe not fully understanding this and I need to look at this differently. Because those mistakes that you make, they can be looked at very positively or they can be looked at very negatively, you know? And I think it's up to educators and parents and homeschool parents to really like create the right environment where, yeah, you know what, we're going to use grades to figure out, or we're going to use like an understanding of how much we've mastered this thing to figure out what we need to focus on next.
Mhm.
But we're not going to use it as like a punishing tool. We're not going to use it as something to obsess about and be like,
Yeah.
oh, your grades need to be here. Right. But I actually think the curiosity bit is kind of tangential almost. And I feel like grades mostly, they typically don't have the best impact, I think, on these types of things, and they create all these shortcuts and stuff. But I think that the curiosity bit, that is almost like separate from grades. Like, you know, the curiosity that kind of like kids get when they're really curious on something, regardless of what grade they're getting in that thing, you can use that to build to the best grade level without being like, oh, you got to see in this thing that you're curious about.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Although I did have one teacher, I was a type A student, but like I had one teacher in school, only one, but who would, we would write a paper and you could turn it in before class started and before the first bell rang, and she would grade it in pencil before class. It was a small class of students. So she would grade the paper in pencil before class and hand it back to you, and you could make all the corrections on the paper in whiteout and
Wow.
pen back in the day, and you could turn
Yeah.
in the corrected version, and the grade you got was on the corrected version, not on
Very
the
interesting.
actual pencil graded
Uh-huh.
version. And I
Yeah.
learned more in that class than I learned in any other English class, probably with maybe one exception. Like I learned so much because the fear of getting bad
Hmm.
grade was removed,
Yeah.
and it was
That's really cool.
the grades were, they were offered, but then it was like correction was part of the learning process. So that's actually what I did with all my kids was
I love that.
you if you corrected it, I will grade the corrected version.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that was very
Because
effective.
that sounds so cool, because you turn the purpose into learning
Yeah.
rather than the purpose to
Yes.
jump through a hoop and see how well did you jump through this hoop.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're trying to do in school. We
No.
actually want to
We actually
help
want
them
to
learn, you
encourage
know?
learning. Yeah. So I'm forever grateful that she did that because it changed my kids' learning, changed the way I thought of learning. Wish
Hmm.
more.
Amazing.
That was a lot of work on her part, I'm sure, to hurry up and grade, a class of
Yeah.
papers. But all right, I have heard you explain AI or compare it to the printing press before. Can you explain
Yes.
that? What do you mean by that?
Absolutely. So when we first embarked on building this company and this product, the problem that we really wanted to solve was like, I looked at every single curriculum book and I was like, wow, this really sucks because you cannot customize it as soon as it comes out of the printing press. And so we're like, this curriculum is essentially already predetermined the time it goes to the printing press. So grade 3, quote unquote, is already determined at that stage. But the kids in grade 3 can be everywhere. What is AI? Well, I feel like AI in the way that I look at it is it's the next evolution of the printing press, where every child can have their own author, available to them immediately, so that they can create the right questions for the child depending on where they are. And that's sort of really what we tried to enable, is like the next version where the printing press doesn't have to be the only bounding place. But another interesting, metaphor is like how the world looked at the printing press back then
Hmm.
versus how the world looks at AI right now is very similar, right? So, for example, when the printing press came out, the church actually banned it originally because they thought that, well, look, this thing is going to cause lots of job loss of everybody who is writing the Bible by hand with ink. Right? And then fast forward 500 years, and the Bible is the most printed book in history.
Right.
History has a wonderful way of serving us knowledge and teaching us almost, right? It's like you thought this expectation would happen. Well, look at this is what happened, right? And I think AI is a similar way where like right now there is fear,
Yeah.
right? There is uncomfortableness because what do we hear in the news? The news is like telling us, oh, AI is coming for all our jobs. It's taking up everything, right? And if you take a look at like, what is AI being trained to do? It's like, most of the AI is trained to do coding jobs and programming jobs, right? And we're seeing like an explosion in the number of coding and programming jobs, even though AI should theoretically like be taking all of this stuff, you know? And I think it's just like things work in the reverse way that we expect them to, especially when you have these new unlocks of productivity. We don't really understand how this is going to help us. But, you know, now we're seeing in our platform, for example, work that is being done that was never being done before, which is like every day. Nobody used to write questions, everything from blank every single day for every kid. Right. But now we actually have the AI doing that. Or nobody was like writing every single thing, like doing all that work that your teacher would do, for example. So it's a lot of work, right? And so now AI can like help us, you know, do all of these things and unlock totally new ways of thinking and totally new ways of doing things. So I think it'll be just like this, where we will unlock those things just like the printing press did.
Yeah. It's funny when you're in a place where it feels like something's new and like I'm potentially dangerous, right? Because like we don't want something that like does all our thinking for us. And there are a lot of unknowns. And I remember when ChatGPT first came out that I told my son's a software developer and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, I'm never going to use that to write a blog post or, you know, and I'm never going
Mm-hmm.
to use it for anything because it's terrible. It's dangerous. And my
Mm-hmm.
son was like, Mom, if you don't use it and learn how to use it correctly, you will be left
Mm-hmm.
behind in 5 years. You know, he was just like
Mm-hmm.
very adamant. You are going to learn
Yeah.
to use this. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you know, listening to my kid. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go learn how to use it. But it's still,
Mm-hmm.
I still go back and forth about how I feel about it. You know, I think a lot of people are
Yeah.
going back and forth where it's like, oh, I see something good. And then maybe your kid uses it for something stupid. And then you're like, never
Mm-hmm.
mind, take it all away.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
Yeah.
It's no good. Go back to paper and
Mm-hmm.
pencil. And so we are kind of in that back and forth place where, I mean, educators are in that place. Like, as I explained to you earlier, both the private schools that my kids go to forbid AI usage. And
Mm-hmm.
they're like, yeah, that feels easy, right? To just forbid it. You
Mm-hmm.
can't use
Forbid it.
it.
Yeah.
And uh, I don't necessarily agree with that position, but it just
Mm-hmm.
feels easy because it's unknown. And,
Yeah.
you know, the kids are learning it faster than the teachers and the principals. So, you know,
They have an
I think
advantage.
the kids are fast. So,
Yeah.
anyway, so your product, though, is called an AI math tutor, right? AI
Mm-hmm.
math tutor,
Yes.
which,
Correct.
you know, if you go Google that, like nobody knows what an AI math tutor is. Or, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like, is it talking to Chat GPT or is it like, what is it? Because in the homeschool space, we have curriculum, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I have used math tutors before, but they were real
Mm-hmm.
people.
Yes.
So Astral is something other. And I want you to explain it in your own words, what you consider
Absolutely.
it to be.
Yes. You know, in short, Astral is a personalized curriculum platform that generates curriculum on the fly. So that means all of the questions and all of the learning material is being created for your child based on where they are in their journey every single day. And so there is nothing that is pre-built from a template or, you know, already done for some other kids and being reused. Everything is made fresh every day. So that's the core of like what actually kids are doing on the platform. And the AI tutor bit is having the ability to call and ask an AI tutor through voice at any given time that they feel I need a question answered. I want to know the answer to this question right now. And they have that curiosity, just call away. And the AI tutor will pick up the phone and answer you every single time without fail. You can ask it infinite questions. It never gets tired.
You can ask it infinite questions, but like, what if my kid wants to ask it about like, you know, the next Marvel movie coming out or something like that? Is it going to be able to like ask it about just anything? Because that like might be a little nerve wracking for parents. Most of us don't want our
That's
kids
true.
talking to some
Yeah.
random creature.
AI bot, right?
Yeah.
Agreed. So we focus it fully on math. If you try asking it anything outside of math, it brings the conversation back to the math so that we can solve what's on the screen ahead of us and stay focused, And then on top of that, we have all the guardrails built so that nothing goes ever off topic and we stay focused to the math at hand.
Okay. So if a kid decides to like test the AI and ask it a bunch of inappropriate questions, it's not going to engage on
No,
nothing.
0%.
0%.
We've done all the testing in the world to make sure it does not engage.
I'm just saying, as a mom of 9 kids, my kids
you
would
should
never do that. For sure they would. Yes, they
For
would.
sure they would.
They're like, what?
You have no idea. The kids always love testing this.
Yeah.
For sure, they're the biggest testers.
My oldest, that's a software developer, I tried putting all those like softwares on our computer that would like protect him, like install things so that you couldn't see things on the internet. And he was like, Mom, I just took that as like challenge accepted. He would immediately try to figure out the workaround, not because he wanted what was on the other side, but just because
it's a challenge.
It was a challenge. And he was like, I usually get past it, within like a few minutes. Yeah. Like he was smart. And so, yeah, kids are going to be kids. All right.
Kids are going to be kids.
So it's a personalized curriculum. And then it also has the ability for kids to talk to an avatar that it can go back and forth, ask questions, and it can help them solve the problem if they don't understand it.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly. And it guides them through the thinking rather than just being like, hey, here's the answer. So instead, it will ask slight diagnosing questions to say, how did you get to this answer? Let's talk about your thinking process here, and guides the child through actually figuring out the answer from first principles rather than here, memorize this. Here's the answer on a silver platter, or whatever the other AI programs would typically do, like ChatGPT, because they're meant for just like easy answers. This one is meant for thinking and guided towards thinking.
Okay. So that's kind of like what a tutor actually does, right? Like they help kids work through the problem using what they know and learning more. Yes. So
yes, absolutely.
Walk me through a lesson, and I would encourage people to go do a free trial of this for sure. But since we're talking about it, what does it look like for a kid to come on the platform after the diagnostic? They get on the platform and they do their math for the day, right? Like, what does that look like for a child to do it? Because people are using whatever they're using right now. It could be a workbook, could be another online program, could be a teacher instructing. What does it look like on Astral?
Right. On Astral, every day they can come into their student portal where they can click onto one of 3 lessons that we'll have ready for them. And in each of those lessons, there's 8 slides. On each of those slides, there's like 1 to 3 questions, maybe more if they're doing drills. So there might be like 6 questions if they're doing a series of questions of like smaller drills like multiplication or something like this. But otherwise, there's a few questions, and we try to attack the thing that they're trying to learn from a variety of different perspectives in that lesson. So we might ask you to do division, rearrange those to multiplication facts, so you can kind of see the connection between multiplication and division. And so we attack those from different perspectives throughout that single short lesson. And then each of these lessons are about 30-ish minutes long.
So where does the teaching happen?
Right. So the teaching happens in 2 places. One is the personalized teaching videos that we create for each of those lessons. So that's always available for the child to take a look at. It's on the right side of the screen, right next to the AI tutor. So whenever they're having a problem with some of the content, they're like, I actually need to learn more about this. They have that resource right there. And they also have access to the AI tutor that they can click and just call, and then they'll be able to get help on all of those individual question slides.
Okay. So you create these custom lessons for kids every day based on what? Like, what's it based on?
Great question. So there's 2 things. One is the national standards themselves. We make sure to follow all the national standards so that we can hit the right parts and the right areas, and we kind of know those bands. But we're not, constrained to those. During the diagnostics, the first few lessons where we figure out where the child is, if there are areas and gaps that need to work that are from earlier grades, we will go through and work on those before we get to full mastery so that we can fill in all those gaps and get them to full mastery on all those standards. and then we can move forward and push forward. Math, we're very lucky with, because, we focus on math. It's very sequential. You need to know addition before you can get to multiplication, et cetera, right? Multiplication for exponents, right?
Mhm.
So, and all these things. So I think for us, we're very lucky that we can kind of see the skill tree. We have a skill tree internally. Then we make sure that the child's, fully mastering all the core before moving on. So it's a mixture of the national standards giving us a strong, essentially, scope and sequence, but then the diagnostics giving us a real scope and sequence. So that's crystallizing it for the child themselves,
Mhm.
creating a personalized pathway to mastery.
Okay. So now, how independent can kids be with Astral? Because as a mom with kids with lots of skills and abilities, some of my kids are great at math and all they have to do is see a workbook and they can teach themselves, and other ones
Yeah,
they don't know. They don't know.
absolutely. Yeah. So I think I can't say it's 100% independent learning for everybody. You know, I can't say that because we have kids that they genuinely need support from a parent, especially if they, sometimes lack focus or something else, they might actually need the parent to come in and give them some help. But I would say in most cases, it is much more independent than a classic curriculum book or a classic, IXL learning, because they have access to somebody that they can talk to, or like an avatar that they can talk to, right? That gives them ability to ask questions and not have to be like every 2 minutes, Mom, how do I do this? So we can eliminate
I'm
at least a
cringing.
good
Don't
portion.
say those words.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think we can take on like 80% to 90% of those like types of questions, but we still, sometimes we will need the parent, and the parent has to be there, right? Because it's their child's education at the end of the day. And then the kids will have some questions that perhaps the AI tutor cannot just answer verbally, right? And you need to be shown something on a piece of paper, and something that, that always occurs, right? So, it's at least much more independent than a textbook or a curriculum book, but we're hoping that one day we can get it to real, true, level of deep independence, but we're getting there.
Yeah. No, I would say 80 to 90%. It's kind of what I've experienced with my kids. It's
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I don't sit there with them every day, but sometimes I will sit there if it seems like they're not getting something or it's going a little
Mhm.
slow or they're taking 10 minutes to do one problem. I'm like, what is happening here?
Mhm.
The one thing is, I will say they don't seem to fall apart when they don't. It's like they're using all their tools to solve it on their own, even when it takes 10
Mhm.
minutes to solve the problem
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
try. So they're really
Mhm.
being encouraged to use their tools to solve the problem. And so they're
Mhm.
not falling apart, getting emotional, turning into a puddle because they don't
Yeah.
understand. They're trying. But
Mhm.
occasionally I do have to
Mhm.
sit there and go okay, what's missing here? But for the
Mhm.
most part, I think it is pretty independent. And my
Mhm.
kids are 8 and 11, and I definitely sit more with the 8-year-old just because she's a
Mhm.
perfectionist. And so she
Yes.
wants me to sit with her for everything. She's everything. She's like, you be here for my spelling, you be here for my
Yeah.
science, don't walk out of the kitchen where she's like that. Um,
That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome.
Homeschoolers, I mean, traditional homeschooling is we're doing our schoolwork at home, but as more and more homeschoolers branch out, we're looking for group learning as in many different forms, right? We've got co-ops and pods and micro schools, and sometimes those groups want to try and offer math. Math tends to be the trickiest subject to offer in the small group learning
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
often you don't have enough students to have grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. And so you're putting multiple kids groups together, multiple grades. Does Astral work with, or in those situations, is there a way that a private tutor, an AI tutor can work in those micro school or co-op situations?
Great question. I think there is a certain level of like, you can't be right next to someone, because if you're really right next to someone and they're on the phone, it's going to conflict, right? Like, because, they might hear something else. They think of the AI tutors talking to them. So there's a certain level of like, you got to have a little space, or at least some headphones or something like this. But I think in general, like, yeah, like, because the curriculum personalizes to each child, imagine you had a micro school of like, 8 to 10 kids, and they're all using the software. They can do the curriculum all at their own pace. And so each kid can be taught totally different things. If one is great at fractions, then maybe we don't need to, you know, hit them over the head with that. And we can move on to the concepts that they're actually struggling on. So every kid in a co-op environment, every kid in the micro school environment can actually get very personalized teaching that's just for them, that they can always feel that the challenge meets the skill level. Because every single curriculum, when you see homeschool moms crossing off, like, we don't need to do this, we don't need to do this.
Yeah.
Well, it's because that they've already mastered it, or they don't need to focus on this, right? And then, how are we going to create more questions when they do need to do this? Well, then we're going to start going to teachers pay teachers. We're going to start hodgepodging other curriculum together.
The
So we eliminate
hodgepodging of
these two.
homeschool is like, it'll make you crazy.
So we're like, well, let's remove the hodgepodge by just generating the content straight up, and just building it for them. So that's kind of been our approach, and why we're so excited about it.
Yeah, I could tell. So here's the question, and if you don't have the exact answer, we'll deal with it. But like in a micro school setting, who has the parent dashboard? Like right now, I have the parent dashboard. In a micro school setting, does each parent get to see their kids' work, or does only the teacher get the dashboard?
Both the parent and the teacher, they get access to the same dashboard. So that, and then with the teacher, they actually get access to many, many dashboards for each of the individual kids.
Okay.
And then so, we have like a list of those links for the teacher, and then they can click in and see each of the kids' progress in those parent portals.
That's lovely. I was hoping that was the answer, but I didn't know because I'm not part of that. So I love that, because a lot of micro schools, the kids are doing some of their work at home, and it's difficult if the teacher has the only access to all the data. So that's helpful that both parents and teachers can see what's going on with that kid.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, this is kind of back to AI. What do you think education, theoretically homeschooling in general, look like in 5 to 10 years because of AI? Because honestly, we're still really, really at the beginning of it. Like ChatGPT only came out a few years ago. So now it's really exploding all over the place. Ed tech is like really trying to harness this. Any thoughts on where people that are doing all kinds of crazy things, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I think the public school system, where we're going to see a huge decline in public school enrollment over the next 5 to 10 years. I think we're going to see a massive surge in people doing homeschooling, right? Especially with the expenditure of ESA programs and all of these types of programs that help parents make their own choice of how to spend their kids' education. But also in general, when you take a look at what AI can do and what are actually we're doing in the public school system or any school system, is like, in public school, teachers spend 60% of their time grading work. They're just sitting at home grading all this work. They should be spending their time individually one-on-one with kids, teachers and so I really think that we're going to see a change in all the ways that teachers spend their time. And I think we'll see an explosion in micro schools and places where kids can go and spend time in the real world. And I really think that AI is going to compress all of that time that we spend sitting down working and expand the time that we spend going outside and learning from the real world. And really, I think that's the major goal here, is that we unlock the teachers to quit their school jobs, start their own micro schools, and hopefully AI can help them be those entrepreneurs to manage all the software, manage all the curriculum, manage all the teaching and all of this grading work. And if the AI is doing all this, then the teachers can just be more like a life coach, like actually taking the kids on field trips. Yeah. I really thirsted for field trips when I was in public school, and I was like, man, this really sucks, because you only get to go on 2 field trips a year. And that's really where I would love and have the most fun, like going to the science center.
Yes.
My eyes would light up. I'd be like, let's go to the science center, and I would just wish that, that we can spend more of the resources on actual experiences and make the time sitting at a desk so efficient and so tiny in the school day that we can spend the rest of the time outdoors, like where kids should be. So that's really I believe that AI will help us achieve this vision of schooling and education. Yeah, that's what I really hope to build.
Yeah. Well, I can see how, especially for parents, what I see is that there's the old school version of homeschooling was that you basically became your child's teacher and you curated their entire curriculum, and not everybody felt equipped to do that or had the time to do it or the resources. And now with all these new tools and ESA funds and the way homeschooling is now, there are a lot of people that feel like they can take their child's education and take the responsibility for it because they don't necessarily feel like they need to have all the teaching skills or need to have an education background, or they don't
Hmm.
need a whole background of information. They
Of
can kind of
course.
jump right in. So I think it's making
Hmm.
it more accessible that way. I've observed that in the last 5 years, that
Hmm.
there are way more, I mean, post COVID, people were people were like, I can do this. I saw what they were doing on that computer with
Yeah.
my kid.
Yeah, for sure.
I for sure can do better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's
Like
incredible.
a whole
Like you
bunch of
saw that
people,
stuff on the Zoom calls and you're like, well, I can definitely do better than
I
this.
can do
And
better.
I think honestly, parents that, there's studies done on this, parents without teaching certifications do just as well as like
Oh, yeah.
somebody with a teaching certification. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like all the kids needed is like some attention, and like the schools don't give that in a 1 to 30 setting. And parents can really give that, because they're there one-on-one, seeing their kids, seeing what they're learning. Oh, they need focus on this. Let's focus on that.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So
Yeah, no, it's
it's just
it's
that one.
really kind of wild to see
Hmm.
the pendulum swing that has happened since I've homeschooled. And I was homeschooled like 40 years ago too. So way back then nobody was
Hmm.
homeschooled and there was nothing for
Yeah.
homeschoolers. But even in the past
Hmm.
20 years, the pendulum swing in lots of places has been pretty extreme. And it's very
Hmm.
exciting. I agree. I think, I mean, around here, I'm in Ohio. Around here, the public school enrollment has declined. Even though we have very good schools where I'm
Hmm.
at,
Hmm.
the enrollment is declining, and state legislatures are like reassigning dollars to these other
Hmm.
alternative forms of education, which has created a wild debate about, money. It always creates a wild debate, but it is giving people choices. And when they have choices, you tend to see what they value and what they prioritize. So
The free market of
the
ideas can
free market
flourish
of
when you have
ideas.
choice.
Yes. And however
Absolutely.
people land, most parents do want to have the opportunity to educate their kids how they want them to. So it's very exciting. And
Absolutely.
5 or 10 years
You know,
from now, I can't even imagine what it will be like.
and AI can actually help in bringing the values of the parent to the forefront of the curriculum. Before, you had to just accept like we're just going to take this curriculum off the shelf. This is like the only one, or you have to kind of like really vet whether the author is like aligned with you and this and
Yes.
that. But now with AI, you can straight up say, "Here's what I believe in. This is what we're going to teach," and we believe parental values come first, not the state curriculum values. This is not a part of our peripherals.
Yes.
I just think parents will have more control, not less, with AI.
Yeah. I'm hoping that's the case. Like I said, I don't put all my eggs in the AI basket. Like I've
Yeah, yeah, that's
done this
fair.
like long enough to see that I'm
You've
like,
seen it.
I've seen some pendulum swings on some things, and there
Uh
are
huh.
things that people get really excited about
Yeah.
that I don't know. I've just seen some swings in
Hmm.
homeschooling and not all of them are good. So I'm like,
Hmm.
anyway, I'm still cautious. But if
That's
you
fair.
meet people like me who are like cautious about AI and they're on the fence, especially when it comes to your product, because that's what we're
Hmm.
talking about, what would you
Hmm.
say to them if they're just like on the fence?
Yeah, I would say like number one is just try it out. I think when you try it out, you get to see all of its, you just get to experience it in its fullness. And then you'll get to see like, it's kind of like the first time you use ChatGPT where you might say, oh, you know what, this is going to be horrible. I can't believe I'm touching AI. Then you use it and you're like, wow, this is giving me like all the answers to my questions much easier than Google is, right? And it's actually kind of fun to talk to. And then you start seeing like parents start giving like nicknames to ChatGPT. They're calling it Chad.
Yes.
They're calling it whatever, right?
Yes.
And so you kind of get to see this. And I think that that'll be the case with our product too. Is like, yes, there's going to be, parents should be cautious with anything that you are bringing to your child. You got to be cautious, test it out fully and try to push it to its edges. And we urge you to do that because I think that's part of any good due diligence on any product that you bring in front of your kids. But really, like, we feel amazing about the value that we can bring to parents. We feel amazing about how kids are doing on the platform. That's why we urge everyone to just give it a shot and see how you like it.
Yes. I would agree. And it does have a 2-week free trial, right? Like,
Yes,
do you need a
fully
credit
free.
card for that? I can't remember.
No
Nope.
credit card
Perfect.
required. Nothing. You can cancel anytime, whatever it is. We just want you to try it, and only if you love it, then use us. If you don't love it, give us some feedback. That's all.
Yeah, and you guys are great about receiving feedback. I will say that that is one of my things that I have loved the most is when parents see things. I mean, I've worked with so much curriculum, and I can tell which curriculum I'm working with receives feedback well because I'll use it year after year. And I'm like, wow, this is getting
Hmm.
better and better. And you guys
Yeah,
take feedback and you apply it. And that is amazing, which should give every parent confidence that if they decide to try it and there's some little something that isn't their favorite that they would like to see a little improved, that they can send you an email and that you guys actually
absolutely.
hear it.
We love the feedback.
Yeah.
That's the only reason we're here where we are today is like we take feedback extremely seriously
Yeah.
and we love it. Like I spent 2 years just going into parents' houses and tutoring their kids, homeschooling kids, right? And like just using the product with them, right? Until we're like, wow, this is really starting to work. Everything's, at that spot. So we're always excited to get feedback and we encourage it.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I would encourage people who are curious and want to see if it could work for their kid to go try out Astral. It's astraltutor.com. It is a .com. Okay, astraltutor.com and go on there, do the 2-week free trial and sit there with your kid and ask the avatar all the questions and
Yes.
really push all the buttons. That's what I did.
Push
I
all the
went and
buttons.
I just really tested this thing out and
Yeah.
it's been fun. It's been fun I've used it for, I don't know, a month or more now. And we plan to keep using it. And it's been really interesting to see how it does fill in the gaps, how it does build a kid's thinking process and how it helps them learn how to problem solve in a way that they're actually going to use these skills again in the future, like the
Hmm.
same
Those
process.
transferable skills.
Yes. So that's very
Absolutely.
encouraging because sometimes that's hard to get from just a regular curriculum where it's just teaching a concept and it wants them to give the right answer back. And
Hmm.
sometimes they need skills developed. So, Shiv, this
Absolutely.
has been amazing. Thank you so
It's a
much.
pleasure.
Yes, thank you. This has been so fun. I feel like I could talk to you for a really long time. I probably have to talk to you again
Same.
sometime.
Let's go. That's
This
awesome.
is great. People go check out Astral Tutor, and I think you're going to love it. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate you having me on. This was such a pleasure, and I hope to be chatting soon again.
Yes, me too.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Schoolhouse. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast so more families can discover new possibilities for learning. And if you're ready to take the next step and start your own homeschool group or micro school, we'd love to help. Just head over to schoolmaking.com and fill out the form. We'll send you tools and guidance to get started. Until next time, remember, learning doesn't just happen in the classroom, it happens everywhere.